Hola, in this video I will talk about reflexive verbs, verbos reflexivos, how to conjugate them, and some examples you'll see. So let's start. First of all, we can say that these verbs are a little bit different because they express actions that you're doing to yourself. We use them in our daily routine to express what we're doing, like to brush our teeth, wash your hands, wake up, to fall asleep. And why? Why are these like that? What do you mean, like, as one does to yourself? It's because the person who's doing the action, it's also the same person that's receiving the action. I brush what? My own teeth. I am receiving the action. You are what? Waking yourself, like you're waking up. That means that you're waking your body. Or you're washing your own hands. When you're doing the action to yourself, that will be a reflexive verb, and you'll see some examples soon. There's a list of reflexive verbs right here. You can find them in your textbook. There are a lot of them. And what do they have in common? The se. Look at this. Bañarse, afeitarse, lavarse, ducharse, acostarse, dormirse. They all have a se, right? This is very important. This list is key. Try to use flashcards or Quizlet or anything to memorize what they mean, because you're gonna need the meaning too. So dormirse, to fall asleep. We already covered dormir, right? You know that dormir is to sleep. But now to fall asleep, dormirse, is a little bit different because you're falling asleep kind of like to yourself or with yourself. But dormir is just to sleep. I sleep 10 hours, but I fall asleep at 10 a.m. I mean, p.m. So it's a little bit different in meaning when you have the se. When you have the se, you're doing the action to yourself. Let's see some other examples, some other verbs here. There are a lot of verbs that are not related to daily routine or personal care, like to have fun, divertirse, to relax, to feel, sentirse, relajarse, and then some other reciprocal verbs that are very similar and express a similar idea, but it's more like when you say in English, like to each other, like to hug each other or to kiss each other. You actually need to have two or more other people to use these reciprocal verbs. There are a few verbs like that. Abrazarse, besarse. Okay, so here you have the main verbs and the ones that you have in your textbook. And then we can use those verbs in a reflexive way, like I was telling you. So you can say, I wash my hair, okay? Don't worry right now, I'll explain how it works with the me and all of this. I'll explain the conjugation in a second. But you can see an example that you're washing your hair. And yeah, it's a reflexive verb because you're doing something to yourself, right? Or when you're washing your hands or when you're washing your face, like that. Now, if you are using the same verb, lavar, careful, because this is lavarse. If you have a se at the end, it means that you're doing it to yourself. That is a reflexive verb. But if you don't have that se, that means that the action is going to someone else or something else. I washed my car. That is not reflexive because you're not doing it to yourself, right? So you're not doing that like that. The action, the verb, or yeah, the direct action of the verb doesn't fall on yourself. So yo ducho a mis hijos. I shower or I give a shower to my kids. So see, you're not doing it like that, as you are not the object, and then it's not reflexive. Okay, so there are some of these verbs that without the se, they mean something else. Okay, it actually means that you're not receiving the action. How do we conjugate these verbs? We're going to use reflexive pronouns. I'll put the whole thing together in a second, but first of all, I'm going to show you the pronouns that we're going to be using with these verbs. So if it's yo, if it's the yo form, it's going to be me. If it's tú, it's going to be te. If it's the usted form, or él, or ella, or one person, or one thing, se. Nosotros is going to be nos. Then with vosotros, you guys, the one that they use in Spain, os. And then ustedes or ellos or a group of people or a group of things, it will be se. So me, te, se, nos, os, se. Cool. So we have the pronouns, and now let's see. How do we do this? So this is really important. Everything agrees. Remember that sometimes direct object pronouns, indirect object pronouns, it's all like the subject and the verb, and then you put the pronoun in the middle. Well, here is easier. Everything agrees. If you have a yo form, you're going to have the me pronoun, and you're going to have an ending for the yo form. Levantarse, this verb it comes from levantar, is an AR verb. So the endings are the typical endings that you learned before, like o, as, a, amos, ais, an. The endings for an AR verb. So that's what you need to do with that part of the verb. Okay? Yo me levanto. I'll mention a little bit more about how to structure this in a second. Look at the other examples. I just want you to see that everything agrees. Nosotros will have what pronoun regarding, or remember the table that I just showed you earlier? It will be nos, and then amos, the ending for nosotros, levantamos. Nosotros nos levantamos. We get up. Levantarse is to get up. Ella se levanta. See, you have the ella form, the se that goes with ella, and the ending that goes with the she form, with ella, with the third person. Now, this is important in English, you guys, because this would be kind of like, I get up myself. In English, you don't say myself. That part is omitted. You just say, I get up. I wake up. Like that. But in Spanish, you do have to have this pronoun in the middle right here. So this is really important. The subject can be omitted, and you'll see in the following sentences that these kind of disappear because if you see an O right here, you know that is the yo form. If you see the amos right there, you know that the subject, the person who's doing the action, is nosotros. So these are usually omitted. Me levanto, nos levantamos. That's usually how we use them. So let's see, what else? Okay, where do we place them? Okay, if there is one verb like this, like me acuesto is I go to bed. I go to bed at 10 at night. Me acuesto, one only verb right here, you're going to put the pronoun right in front of the verb, like you've been seeing in the examples before, right? Now, these two examples are different, and let me talk about them in the next 2 points. So two verbs, when you have two verbs like this next example, yo me quiero acostar, we have two verbs. I want to go to bed at 10. So when you have that, when you have two examples, you can see this, that the pronoun is going to go in front of the first verb, kind of like what we used to do with the pronouns, with the direct object pronouns or indirect object pronouns or double object pronouns. If you have two verbs, you have two verbs here too. Tengo que acostar. The me is going to go either before or attached. You can see it here, attached. Tengo que acostarme. I have to go to bed. Acostarme. One more example. Ella se va a cepillar los dientes. You can see the two verbs right here. Va a cepillar o va a cepillar. The se is right in front of the first verb, or you can put it attached to cepillar right here. If it's ella, it will be se. Okay? Remember, everything always agrees with the first verb or the subject. Okay? The subject. Now, what if you have an ing? This present progressive, remember, what are you doing right now? I am falling asleep right now. I am brushing my teeth. If you're using one of these verbs and you have an ing, like ando, acostando, or acostando here, there's another one, cepillándose, ando or yendo. Remember, that is the ing that we cover in Spanish 1. So I am going to bed right now. Estoy acostando. They can be in front of the verb look at this example, te estás acostando, or it can be after. If it's the yo form, estoy acostándome. It can be attached to the second form. And remember, if yo is the subject, it will be a me pronoun, and it will be estoy because the first verb needs to agree with the subject. The second verb always stays either in the infinitive, as you see here, or if it's an ing, we just keep it at the ing in Spanish, ando or yendo. But then you attach the me. That's when you have two verbs. Estoy acostando. Está cepillando. The se can go before the first one or attached to the second one. The me can go before estoy or attached to the second, the acostando. Okay? Good. So now, how do we conjugate these verbs? Well, let me get to this part. There we go. So if you take any of these verbs, you'll see different parts. You will see the root of the verb with a normal verb that ends in AR or ER or IR, and then the se. If you can separate it all in three parts. Now, the levantar form is going to be just like a normal regular verb. Look at this. Levantar, you drop the ending and put the normal endings for AR. Levanto, levantas, levanta, levantamos, levantáis, levantan. Okay, we have that part. And now, what about the se? The se kind of disappears from the infinitive, from the main form. It disappears to become one of the pronouns. So, me levanto, te levantas, se levanta, nos levantamos, os levantáis, se levantan. Remember that I said that we don't really need the subject? The subject is omitted in all of these examples. But you could say, yo me levanto, tú te levantas, nosotros nos levantamos. That's fine. You could say all of that with the subject, but we don't really need the subjects because it kind of tells you right here if it's the yo form or the tú form or the third person, like that. The ella form or él. Okay. So yeah, drop the se, drop the AR, put the normal regular endings, and add the pronouns. And you got it. That will be it. So let's see other examples. Cepillarse. Remember, the se will become one of the pronouns that will come in a second. And then cepillar is an AR verb, so we drop the AR and put o, as, a, amos, ais, an. And then the pronouns, me, te, se, nos, os, se. Now, careful with some of the verbs that you had in that list at the beginning, because if you see a parenthesis with an I, that means that it's a stem change verb. Verbos de cambio de raíz, o verbos con cambio de radical. There are different words for that, different meanings, but that means, remember Spanish 1 where we had some verbs that we had to change the vowel and the stem. It will become either I or IE or UE. This happens here. Again, there are some of these daily routine verbs, some of the reflexive verbs that also have those changes. So make sure you go to the list and highlight or be careful with those verbs that have changes. There are a few examples here. I'll show you a few more in the next slides or in a second. So vestirse, what do we do here? We have a normal verb and we have the se. The se will become the pronouns, okay? And what happened with vestir? This part, we dropped the IR and it became the endings for IR endings, remember? O, es, e, imos, is, en. Okay, we got it. And now, when do we change the E? Remember what is left? There you're going to have a vowel and the vowel will change to I. So when do we change the E to I? We change it in only these four forms. The yo form, the tú form. Remember the boot forms. They're also called boot verbs. So me visto, te vistes, se viste, se visten. But careful, the nosotros and the vosotros forms, they don't change. The E doesn't change to I. The E doesn't change to I in this one either. Okay? So careful. A few other examples. Despertarse is to wake up. Oh wait, let me Go back. Cepillarse is to brush. Brush your teeth. Cepillarse los dientes. Vestirse, to get dressed. Despertarse, to wake up. And acostarse, to go to bed. To lay in bed, go to bed to start getting ready for bed. So despertarse is also one of those that change. Acostarse also changes to UE. But careful, despertarse, remember, this is the ending. This is the se that will become one of the pronouns. And then in the root of the verb, we have two E's. Which one is the one that we change? Always the second one. And you can see it here. We keep the first E. The second one changes, the second E changes to IE. And then we put an ending instead of the O, as, a, amos, ais, an, instead of the AR. And the se that will become one of the pronouns in front of it every time that you have only one verb. If you have two verbs, the me goes in front of the first verb or attached to the second one. Okay? So you have some examples here. And then more examples right here. Let's see. Yo me levanto, I get up. See, everything agrees. Yo me with the ending, levanto, I get up at 8. Ella se despierta, she wakes up very early. ¿A qué hora? What time? You go, you te duermes. You can see the you sleep, yourself, so it's you go to sleep or fall asleep. Te duermes todos los días. Mis hermanas se maquillan en su cuarto. My sisters put on makeup, but you can see how the subject and then the pronoun and the ending, everything will agree. You can see it in every case. Okay? Perfect. And then this would be a really good practice if you can maybe make a list of the activities. Actually, we're going to have something like that later in this chapter for you to do something like this. But yeah, good practice. Write down the daily routine. What do you do in the morning? Primero, first, yo me despierto. Put it all in the yo form with the me. Me and an O at the end because it's the yo form. So primero me despierto, I wake up. Segundo, second, me levanto, I get up. What can you do after? Tercero, third, yo me lavo la cara. I wash my face. Usually you don't say mi cara because you're already saying that it's to yourself. So the verb is saying that you're doing it to yourself, but you don't need to say my face. In Spanish, you can say the face, la cara. Or me lavo los dientes. Or tercero, what else can you do? Me ducho, I take a shower. Or me visto, I put on clothes. So you can practice using all of those verbs in the yo form to complete your daily routine. Like list all the actions, all the things that you do. And some questions to finish this video. Te maquillas. Remember, if a question is in the you form, it's asking you, you're going to change it, see, te, and ending in the you form as you put on makeup. The yo form, it will be sí, me maquillo. Everything in the yo form. I put on makeup. Sí, me maquillo. Or no me maquillo. If you need a no in front of it, just put it right before the pronoun. No me maquillo. ¿Te lavas las manos? ¿A qué hora te despiertas? Like, do you wash your hands? What time do you wake up? Now, careful with number 5. Ustedes, here is not you, it's you guys. Do you guys wash your hands before eating? Antes de comer? You can be like, careful, because here is asking you guys. So you will be like, oh yes, we wash our hands. Yes. Nosotros nos lavamos, everything in the nosotros form to answer this. Nos lavamos las manos antes de comer. Okay? Well, and that will be it. Preguntas, any questions, please let me know. Send me an email if you need anything, if you have any doubts, any questions, and that will be it for this video. Have a good day. Adios.